I'm just saying, it might be my favorite couch that's ever existed. It's like, it's a pretty wonderful world. Congrats on the movie, first of all. We're gonna get to it. It's so good. But to break the ice, last time you were here, Kyle, we were talking about travel, and your lovely wife is here again today, and y'all are about to go on a big trip, right?
Yeah, in the hat right there at the end of that. Yeah.
No, y'all, I hear y'all are about to go on like a 3 week, is it 3 weeks?
Yeah, well, we decided once we had the chance that what we'd do is we'd travel to places and try to get to know the people, try to make some friends, get to know the culture, if you will, and live there for a while.
Yeah.
So our first stop is in our adventure is going to be Portugal.
Yeah.
Which, and we're going to go outside of Lisbon and bum around a little bit and take the trains, go to Porto and different places, and just explore.
Are
You guys need a friend?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the invite. Are y'all the people that like plan everything, or do you kind of go, let's just wake up and see what happens? Which ones are you?
The latter.
Okay,
Completely.
good.
Yeah.
Oh man,
No
it is
plans.
the worst going on vacations with people with an itinerary. I was like, this is not vacation, this is work. So congratulations on that. So what is, like, you've traveled all over, both of you. Like, what's some of your favorite places you've been, like, culturally speaking?
Oh, wow.
You know, I traveled quite a bit to Africa, like Congo and Rwanda, which is really beautiful and I really like. But, you know, to your point about people with itineraries, you do great with my kids. They also don't like itineraries.
I hate an itinerary.
Like, I had to plan it out, and what do we have to do? I'm still asleep. Like, you're asleep. We came all the way to Japan, you know, it's...
Yeah. Your wife is from Argentina. Do you get there often?
Yeah, we get down as much as we can. It's tough, you know, we live in New York and the seasons are opposite. So in our summertime, we don't really want to go experience the winter again.
Yeah.
So, but we do get down there. She's got a bunch of family down there.
What's your excuse now?
What's that?
I mean, it's summertime there now.
It's summertime, but the kids are in school.
Yeah. That is, I know. Why are you a responsible parent?
I know, what are you asking me?
So wait, Matt's wife was a producer, right, on the new film?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, we're gonna talk about how it was made, but first, how do you set this, how do y'all talk about this without ruining anything?
Talk about this movie?
This movie, yes, because I'm afraid to spoil anything.
Yeah, so are we. There might...
Because there's things that I thought, ugh,
yeah,
you guys,
well, that's kind of the
this.
fun of the movie is,
Yeah.
it's a crime thriller, but it's also kind of a whodunit, and
Yeah.
there might be a bad guy sitting on this couch right now.
Yeah.
We don't know.
There might be.
There might be. I said might.
Yeah.
I said might.
Yeah.
But it's about, you know, these cops who and this actually happens down in Miami. They go and they hit these houses. They actually have dogs that are trained to smell money, and they're getting money and seizing it if it's kind of money made by ill-gotten gains, kind of so drug money, and so that means that these teams of cops are put in these very difficult situations.
High risk.
High risk, number one, to try to get in there, and then. So, and in this case, which really happened down there, they went into a house thinking there would be, you know, a couple $100,000 maybe, and they found $20 million in the wall of this house. So then that obviously means the rule down there is you have to count the money on site to make sure.
Because they're worried about the police don't take any.
And everybody's numbers need to match up, but the problem with that amount of money is they know immediately it's going to be cartel money, and the cartel might want to come back and get it, and now they're stuck in this house, right? So.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty
And meanwhile,
tense.
it becomes obvious that like somebody among the group of officers, you know, may be complicit in this somehow. So it's sort of, they have to stay there, they have to count the money, but they're trying to figure out who they can trust.
It is such great storytelling. Can you usually guess like the killer or like what's happening? Are y'all good at that?
I'm usually wrong. I do guess. I always guess, but I'm pretty much always
Somebody
wrong.
once told me that that's our response to fear. That like when we get scared of something, of the unknown, the human mind wants to try to figure it out ahead of time to make it like manageable and controllable. And so then you go, oh, okay, I know what this is. But I think if you're trying to, I mean, that's the fun of it, is you want the audience to have that feeling and kind of sustain it. And it's kind of like why I like to watch this genre of movies. It's like a throwback cop, mystery story.
I like it, but I'm sweating. I was sweating. I literally was finishing it today during lunch, and I was like, don't talk to me, I'm finishing it. Oh man, I was so frustrated. I kept having to press the space bar to stop because I couldn't watch it at home, and I had to watch it on this computer, which I was like, this is I want to watch it on a big screen. I was like, this deserves a big screen. I was so mad, but I couldn't stop watching it.
I want to pause it with my remote, not the space bar.
I was so mad.
I love that you can express yourself and then just edit it later on. I mean, that you can take pot shots.
Honestly, like, watch this. It'll all go away. It'll all go away. she would be, she's the girl next door, let's hire her. And they were like, what the did we do? Like, they didn't get how classy I actually was,
like,
Kyle.
I just realized exactly what I needed my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. You know how different my life would be if I could have just gone back. No, I erased that, actually.
Yeah.
That's not, it's amazing.
Do you know how often I literally text my executive producer, Alex, and my manager and go, hey, remember that time when I said this? I didn't mean it like that. Am I, come on? It's like the most wonderful thing ever. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want this like unhinged, like, you know, just like live. They will never make the show live. We need to take a short break. That was The Rip. It's out tomorrow on Netflix. Man, also the music, like it was like, I was like, "Wah!" Like the music was so good in this as well, which is like a whole different character. But you've worked with these guys separately, right? Was this the first time working with them together?
As actors.
Yeah, yeah. God, I love you so much. What was it like seeing them work together? Because this is like a different thing, even on screen when you're watching like y'all's chemistry. Like it's just a different thing. I feel like when y'all come together.
I think this is really fantastic. I've got a lot of friends I went out to LA with, and I don't have something like this, but I've got a lot of close friends. And if I had what they're doing and kind of changing the business, and these guys are a real team. You know, they're doing a lot.
Yeah.
To have them on the set together, this banter. It's the same thing. They're attacking each other and having fun, but it makes the set comfortable, and they're so competent. You just know you're safe on the set, and then on this thing, you know, with Joe and them, and it all just worked out wonderfully. It was very enjoyable.
Kyle doesn't need much help.
I need a lot of help.
No, you do not. No, so I heard that, was it the Beatles and your daughter that kind of made you really want to start working back with Ben again? Because y'all don't do everything, you know, often. It's every once in a while.
Well, we had gone, I think, it was almost 20 years without working together. And I think partly because when Good Will Hunting came out all that time ago, we were so seen as a team that I think we wanted to not kind of get typecast as
individuality,
a team.
yeah.
Yeah, so we were like, all right, well, we should focus on our, our
well
own
done.
stuff. Yeah.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was watching that Peter Jackson documentary, and at the end of it, on the fourth one, at the end, the Beatles play that live show on top of the roof, and it was so great. And I was watching it with my daughter, and then he put up this chyron that said this was the last time the Beatles played live together.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, my daughter looked at me, she goes, Dad, why are you crying? It just made me so sad because they were so full of joy, they were so young, and there was so much more music that felt like that they could have made it, and they were really in a joyful place. And we had been talking about doing a small studio like this, and that was really, for me, the kind of emotional impetus to kind of go, let's go. Like, we found ourselves in our 50s, we're both still here, like, let's go out on our shields, at least together, you know, and do this,
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, someone recently said, I thought this was funny, that whenever you two do a movie, Ben always plays the louder character. Is this a choice, or?
That's not.
I have a word for it. It's called range. Yeah,
The
it's
thing
acting.
is, that's not scripted.
It just happens.
He's just loud. You know.
Just brings a little bit of yourself to each character. Yes, no, I'm kind of
play
like
him just like this, but really loud.
There's a lot of moral ambiguity in The Rip, with the audience always guessing who's good or bad. It does such a great job because you don't know really till the end. And even in the end, I was so angry because I wanted to see what was in that bag, and it took a minute to show me what was in the bag. Anyway, what do you guys love about making movies? Like, I feel like it's a throwback to how they kind of used to be. Or do you say that rings true?
Definitely. Yeah.
I really don't think that there are just all good and all bad people.
I say that to my
think
kids
that
all
whole
the time.
thing is sort of an illusion. Like, we get raised a certain way, people are subject to a lot of competing tensions and instincts. Most people, I think, are basically good and want to do the right thing, but like sometimes we do things unintentionally. Like, the people are interesting and complicated, and if you simplify it, or if you fall into the trap of thinking, for example, anyone disagrees with me is wrong, therefore bad, therefore evil, I think it makes maybe the world simpler to navigate, but it's not true. And if you're playing those parts or telling stories about that, I think the audience actually steps back, and it just becomes boring because it's not real, it's not complicated, and it's kind of cheap and easy, you know?
Yeah. No, I think we're far more complicated. That is a question my kids actually ask me a lot. They're always like, is that a good guy or bad guy? And I'm like, well, you know, is this person a good person or a bad person? Like, in life, and it's like, as a parent, you want to shield them from, like, tell them, like, well, I wouldn't necessarily hang out with this person, you know, in our world, you know, but no, not everyone's good, not everyone's bad. It's like a constant conversation. But honestly, in situations like happening in this movie, and, you know, it's inspired by true events, character really does matter. Like what you do on your daily, your actions, who you are, really does matter when people start second guessing, like, would this person do this thing, you know?
What I like about this movie is it's really about, it's not about good and bad. Yes, some of the people are corrupt, but what it tells you is like the slippery slope. Somebody did one little thing and they justified it. And then, well, you gotta cover that up.
Yeah.
And then, well, I'm not gonna tell people that. And then you go
stressful.
down the road, and then, well, we're all, you know, cops and people who will protect ourselves and one another and our own. So, okay, well, this person is in cahoots with me, then it's that same ethos that says, well, I'd kill somebody to protect that. And I find it fascinating. These are characters who are at the kind of fundamentally similar, but because of choices that they've made and maybe rationalized, and then other ones they had to make, they find themselves in these diametrically opposed situations at the end. And I think that's also how corruption, a lot of that stuff happens. It's not somebody who wakes up and goes, I'm gonna be evil.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's more interesting to tell stories about.
Yeah,
And to
it's
play
definitely more
as
serious.
a character.
Yeah, for sure. I know, playing an must be fun. Yeah, yeah.
We see that every time you cut.
He ain't saying much, but when he does, man, he's like, I'm gonna make it count. I'm gonna make it count. Whenever guests who have made some of our favorite films stop by, and well, there's plenty of films on the couch here right now, we like to dive deep into the scenes of those films and see what they remember from them. So it's time, once again, you're welcome, for Scenes and Stories.
Scenes and stories.
This is Free Association. It's your Freudian psychoanalysis for the week. You're welcome. We'll show a scene, and whoever was part of the scene gets to tell us what memories come to mind. First one is for Ben, which Kyle was also in, actually, Argo. What do you think of with that scene? What comes to mind?
I remember that it was how hard, I mean, what a great job they did at the bazaar in Turkey where we shot that, and how many Farsi-speaking, ethnically Persian people were living there, so that we really could create the Grand Bazaar of Tehran there, and also being grateful that all of the background performers in front of me were shorter than I was.
And I was having a lot. You're pretty tall. How was Ben as a director in this? How did you feel?
He would just yell, and I'd do what he said.
Get in that suit.
So much.
Wear that suit and comb your hair that way. And he was like, well, okay. There you go.
It's a pretty great hair number, I'm just saying.
That's great hair.
Yeah. So wait, next for Kyle, actually, Wolf of Wall Street. What do you think of when you see that?
I wish I could share the story of the question I asked that man in the middle. That day, he had me laugh. I laugh about it still, and I can't because it's not a story to share.
Yeah.
But I'll say that.
This is
So
riveting.
we feel
Thank
even
you.
more left out now. Thank you.
Yeah. I can't tell you anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not one thing, but something cool happened.
I'll tell you
that we don't know.
something really cool about that whole thing is when I went to meet with Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
We met at this little hotel, and all of a sudden, all the alarms went off. The fire alarms went off. And so the girl and I, we walked back there, and it just so happened I was a volunteer fireman at the same time I was doing something, blah, blah, blah. And so I just knocked on the door, and bum, 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 and he opened the door, and I said, sir, we need to leave right now. That place is on fire, let's get out of here. And he just looked at me and went, get the hell in here. And I remember he didn't have shoes on, so we went in. It was
Totally
just one of those
comfortable. That's
very
cool.
odd,
Volunteer
wonderful
fireman
moment.
as well. That's very cool.
Yeah, for a few years,
Yeah. Okay, next
Sounds like,
is
and I
Matt.
also happen to be a superhero. People use the word hate and throw around.
Now that you mention that.
So wait, next is Matt, talented Mr. Ripley. What a crazy film.
Yeah, that's with Jude Law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember shooting that scene, and it leads into a big fight, and I hit him with an oar, and I just remember they had this makeup effect that the director really wanted. He wanted me to hit Jude, and then for there to be a pause, and then for his face to open up with blood. And it was a prosthetic, and I remember Jude getting up at something like 1 in the morning to go in and do 5 hours of prosthetics so that he'd be ready.
Oh my God.
But it was a big scene between he and I. I think it took a few days to shoot that out on the water, and but it ended with this kind of big effect and violent fight.
Yeah, that's a crazy film. Well, this one is too. Next is for Kyle, but Matt also produced this, Manchester by the Sea. What do you think of when you see that?
That was a wonderful day, working out on the water and meeting the young kids that would go out and do this in real life. This was, I think, the last day we shot. But the one thing that I really remember about this more than anything else is the guy who wrote it and directed it, who I know you guys know, one of the neatest people that when I met him, I knew immediately. And I cried when I read that script, and I knew that script was on. But Kenny Lonergan. But that was a really that's a nice film.
You know, it used to save dolphins.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Wait, last one. This is Matt
It's been a
again.
few years as Aquaman.
This is The Departed.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one?
Well, that was like a great day for me, you know, doing a scene with Jack.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. And I mean, I remember so much. I remember everything about it. It's one of those things you imprint, like, I remember everything he said to me. And, you know, it was just interesting watching him work, too, because he wore an earwig at this point in his career to feed him lines. And I remember getting into this very scene, and it was probably a 3-4 page scene. And Marty came over to rehearse it, and it's just the three of us. And Jack took the earwig out, and he rehearsed the scene, and he knew it letter perfect. Like, we rehearsed it like 3 or 4 times. And then Marty walked away, and I said, Jack, why do you have the earwig? And he said, it's just so that I know in case I need it, I have it. Because there's this feeling of anxiety you get as an actor when you go up on your line. And he said, you'll see as you get older, it's harder to remember your lines. And he goes, and that feeling is just, you know, he's like, I don't want to have that feeling because it'll interrupt and ruin a performance. So just knowing that he had it and not needing it was how he used that earwig.
You know what else is really cool. Interesting about that picture? That Jack Nicholson's playing inspired by Whitey Bulger, right, in some ways. You're in a movie theater. Whitey Bulger went to the movies to see that movie while he was on the run from the FBI while they were trying to catch him, and got spotted in the movie theater by somebody who was like, I think I saw Whitey Bulger
gets
in
you
The
every
Departed.
time.
And
so Jack and I basically caught Whitey Bulger.
You guys are heroes. That's amazing. And that was Scenes and Stories. Everybody, give it up for Kyle, Ben, and Matt. The movie is so great.